Let's face it, relationships are hard. At the start, everything feels like a dream. You're on cloud nine, blissfully ignoring all the red flags. But what happens when those butterflies turn into straight-up bees, stinging you with every fight, misunderstanding, or, let's be real, flat-out bad behavior? The truth is, love isn't enough to sustain a relationship. That's right. Love alone will not save your sinking love boat. It's the invisible landmines you're stepping on that are sending your relationship into chaos. And you don't even know it yet. But don't panic. Yet. Today, we're exposing 7 deadly pitfalls that are not only tanking your relationship, but are probably lurking in the background of your love life right now. If you want to rescue what's left of your relationship, you'll want to stay glued to your screen. These are the exact traps that slowly poison the love between you and your partner. If you can avoid them, you might just have a fighting chance. Pitfall number 1, unrealistic expectations, aka, why aren't you perfect? Let's be real, nobody is perfect, and expecting perfection from your partner is a one-way ticket to heartbreak. Unrealistic expectations create invisible shackles that no one can break free from. It might start small. Maybe you expect your partner to know exactly how you're feeling without you saying a word. Or maybe you want them to react like the characters in your favorite romance movies, making grand gestures, saying the perfect words, or always being available for you emotionally. But here's the problem. People aren't mind readers, and life doesn't play out like a scripted movie. Expecting perfection from someone sets both of you up for failure. Disappointment festers because you're building a version of your partner in your head that doesn't exist. Here's the kicker. Most of us don't even realize we have these expectations until we're upset. And when they don't live up to these impossible standards, the frustration turns into anger, and worse, resentment. Over time, you start to see every little flaw or shortcoming, and suddenly, the person you once loved feels inadequate in your eyes. So, how do you combat this? Communication and empathy. Instead of silently expecting your partner to just know what you want, talk to them. Recognize they're human, just like you. Celebrate their strengths and acknowledge their weaknesses, understanding that you're both a work in progress. By letting go of impossible ideals, you create room for growth, both individually and together. Number 2, the communication breakdown. You're talking, but are you listening? If you think talking is the same as communicating, think again. In fact, most of the time, we're not actually communicating at all. What we're doing is talking past each other, trapped in a loop where we're more focused on our own response than actually listening to our partner's concerns. It's like you're in a boxing match, each person just waiting for their turn to throw the next punch, never truly engaging in what the other is saying. Here's where it all goes wrong. When no one is listening, nothing gets solved. Sure, you've talked about it 10 times, but if neither of you actually hears what the other is saying, what's the point? Miscommunication breeds frustration. Frustration turns into bigger arguments, and before you know it, you're fighting about how you fight rather than the real issue. The fix? Active listening. That means putting your ego aside and actually hearing your partner out without jumping to conclusions, interrupting, or preparing your next counterpoint while they're still talking. It's about being present and invested in understanding their feelings, not just proving your point. Master this, and you'll avoid a whole lot of unnecessary conflict. Number 3, taking each other for granted. The silent assassin. One of the deadliest killers of love isn't loud or obvious. It's subtle, slow, and sneaky. Taking your partner for granted doesn't happen in one explosive moment. It happens over time. It's when you stop appreciating the little things, the way they make you coffee in the morning, how they pick up dinner after a long day, or even how they always listen when you're venting about work. It's human nature to get comfortable, especially in long-term relationships. At first, you're showering each other with affection, small gestures, and constant validation. But over time, those gestures become routine. You expect them. And when something becomes expected, it's no longer special. The danger here is twofold. First, the person being taken for granted starts feeling unappreciated, and slowly, resentment builds. They may start pulling back emotionally because they feel like their efforts go unnoticed. Second, the bond between you weakens. Gratitude is the fuel that keeps love alive, and without it, the relationship starts to crumble. So, how do you fix this? It's simple. Acknowledge the little things. A small thank you can go a long way. Showing appreciation doesn't have to be grand gestures or elaborate gifts. Sometimes it's as easy as noticing and valuing the things your partner does. Never let the comfort of routine blind you to the effort your partner puts in every day. Number 4, ignoring emotional baggage. Spoiler alert, it won't disappear on its own. Here's the thing, we all have baggage, every single one of us. Whether it's from childhood, past relationships, or traumatic experiences, we all carry emotional scars that impact how we love, trust, and communicate. The problem arises when we pretend like that baggage doesn't exist. You can try to hide it, suppress it, or even pretend like it's not there, but eventually it's going to explode in your face. Ignoring your emotional baggage doesn't make it disappear. In fact, it amplifies the problem. You'll find that certain situations trigger unresolved feelings, leading to irrational behavior, overreactions, or miscommunications in your relationship. Worse, you may start projecting your past experiences onto your current partner, unfairly blaming them for things they never did. So, how do you deal with it? First, acknowledge your baggage. Understand what's lurking beneath the surface and how it might affect your relationship. Secondly, work on it, whether through self-reflection, therapy, or even just open, honest conversations with your partner. Dealing with your emotional wounds head-on will not only improve your relationship, but it will also bring you peace. Number 5, the scoreboard mentality. Are you keeping count? Ever find yourself silently keeping tabs on every little thing you do for your partner versus what they do for you? You've fallen into what's called the scoreboard mentality, and it's incredibly destructive. When you're in a relationship, it's tempting to measure effort. After all, you don't want to feel like you're doing everything while they're doing nothing, right? But relationships aren't about keeping score. It's not a competition. When you start tallying up who did the dishes, who planned the last date, who's been more romantic, you're not fostering love, you're breeding resentment. Relationships aren't a transactional game where every good deed must be paid back with interest. Here's the real problem. Keeping score means you're focusing on what's lacking instead of what's there. You're looking for flaws, shortcomings, and unmet expectations, which only leads to frustration. The solution: shift your mindset from me versus you to us. When you both contribute without expecting a tit for tat, you build a stronger, more supportive partnership. Number 6, losing your identity, the relationship black hole. This one is a silent but deadly pitfall. You enter a relationship as your own person, full of hobbies, dreams, and quirks. But slowly, over time, you start blending into your partner's life. It's subtle at first. Maybe you start watching their favorite shows, spending more time with their friends, or going along with their weekend plans. But eventually, you might wake up one day and realize you've lost yourself. This is dangerous because your individuality is what attracted your partner to you in the first place. If you become a shadow of who you were, not only will you feel suffocated, but your partner may start feeling like they're with a stranger. Maintaining your sense of self is crucial in any relationship. It's important to continue doing things you love, nurturing your personal interests, and having space to grow individually. Remember, a healthy relationship consists of two whole, complete people coming together, not two halves trying to make a whole. The more you hold on to your identity, the more you have to offer in your relationship. Number 7. Letting technology kill the romance. Swipe left on that distraction. It's hard to admit, but technology is killing modern relationships. Think about it. How many times have you and your partner sat next to each other, both glued to your phones, barely exchanging words? Or maybe you've been out on a date, and instead of enjoying each other's company, one of you is scrolling through Instagram or checking emails. Technology is amazing, but it's also a silent romance killer. The issue with constantly being on your phone or glued to screens is that it creates emotional distance. You're not fully present with your partner, which leads to disconnection. Over time, this lack of presence builds walls between you, and before you know it, your relationship feels more like roommates existing rather than partners in love. So how do you fix it? Put down the phone. Set boundaries for screen time, especially during moments when you should be connecting with your partner, dinner, date nights, or even just quiet time at home. When you're fully present in your relationship, real intimacy can grow, and you'll strengthen your emotional bond. Here's the takeaway. Relationships aren't doomed because of the big obvious issues. They're derailed by these sneaky little pitfalls that chip away at the foundation of your love. If you want to save your love life, it's not just about feeling in love. It's about avoiding these hidden relationship traps. So, the next time you find yourself wondering why things feel off with your partner, remember this list. Are you expecting too much? Failing to communicate? Taking each other for granted? Whatever it is, nip it in the bud before it's too late. Because if you can dodge these 7 pitfalls, you'll have a way better shot at that happy ever after you've been dreaming about.